talk?
I needed that.
Let me talk.
I'm telling you how I feel.
Well, let me tell you how I feel.
When he first contacted her, Miss Agee felt like the ground would swallow her whole. How could this man leave her fatherless for 30 years and now wants to be back in her life? It didn't make any sense.
You know my name, you know my birthday, you know everything. There's internet, I look for you. I searched for you.
If you were a man and responsible, you would have signed the birth certificate.
I didn't want the children in the first place. You was the one that wanted marriage and babies. She stopped taking the pill and got pregnant.
2 men and a woman found themselves entangled in a 3-decade-old mystery. Mr. Tillman and Mr. Johnson are both vying for the title of dad, all thanks to their shared connection with the baby mama. Now the million-dollar question was, who was the biological father amongst them? Well, we're gonna get to the bottom of that.
Was it committed?
It started out more like friendship, more so than a committed relationship. But as time grew on and I discovered that she was dealing with other people than myself, so that's when I kind of strayed away.
So you discovered she was also in a relationship with Mr. Johnson?
I didn't necessarily know that they were in a relationship, but I knew that she was dealing with somebody else other than myself.
We have a love triangle on our hands here, people. Nothing new. However, this love triangle was more tangled than a plate of spaghetti. Oh yeah, the baby mama was playing them both, and quite cheekily, may I add. And these guys didn't like being played like a fiddle. More so the joyous news of the baby.
She showed up at my door, she was pregnant, you know, I still jokingly way asked her, you know, what happened to her, and so she told me she was pregnant, it was mine.
She told me she was pregnant, and I asked her, was it from that guy? And she said, yeah, I believe so.
Time to make this plot thick, as the defendant and plaintiff were now swapping stories of their encounters with a baby mama. And during such an encounter, it was revealed the mommy had a fun time with both these guys on the same day. Wow, that's one way to mess up the timelines for sure.
You had sex with her that morning, around about 12 o'clock. With Cece. And
that's Miss Tillman, mother.
Yes, that's her mother. She told me she had sex with you that around about 12 o'clock. And I had stopped by there around about 3 something, and me and her had sex.
I don't remember.
Well, those fun times produce a very real baby. Although both contenders were up for the role of fatherhood initially, it seemed Mr. Tillman pulled a no-show after some time. So not cool. However, in his defense, he claimed he did come to visit his daughter, but the defendant wasn't buying that one bit.
Who was in her life after that? Did you have a relationship with her?
For as I knew, he was gone.
Did you have a relationship to conceive the baby?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. I used to come and get my daughter and take her with me on the weekends, and anything she needed, I did.
Where did you come to get her from?
Y'all just took my daughter.
Where did you come to get her from?
Well, looky here. It appeared not only Mr. Johnson didn't believe a word of the plaintiff, but so did Miss Annetta. Uh-oh. Guess Mr. Tillman had been caught in a lie. But he was still adamant that he did visit, and these guys were the ones who disappeared on him. Moving on, we got to see what the daughter thought of the one who raised her.
Only person I've ever had come pick me up and take me out on the weekends was Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson has always been there for me. So I'm really confused. I don't know. And
baby, after your mother and him sent you to Georgia, I lost contact with you.
But you know my name. You know my
I came back several times trying to find you.
It was certainly not a good day for the dear old plaintiff. The man was being caught in bold lies one after another. He had other plans on the day of the birth, and still he had the gall to maintain his innocence. Then Miss Annetta's birth certificate came up, with a blank space for the father's name, unsurprisingly. And boy, was that a stark reminder of the mystery surrounding her paternity.
How did I get my name?
I signed for you at the hospital after you were born.
This is my birth
I have the original birth certificate.
And it doesn't have.
So let me see that, Jerome, hand me that.
Why you left?
Cece got mad at me because she found out I was going to New York to get married, and that's why I think you and her sent my daughter away out of my life. It's not my fault.
What do you mean it's not
your fault?
My
And so the daughter finally blew up on the supposed baby daddy. Mr. Tillman was in for it now. She poured her heart out, and he still tooled the same tune that they disappeared. Well, drama level? Up to 100.
No, the reason I wasn't in your life, baby, because they sent you away.
I don't care about what they did. Well, you are a grown man. You have your own. You have did it. You shouldn't have stopped. You knew I was out there. Did you not know I was out there?
Yes, I knew you was out there, and I tried my best to find you.
Girlfriend to the rescue. Yup, Mr. Tillman still had at least one person in his corner. His girlfriend came up to the podium to stand with him in support. Oh, she did a lot more than just that. She also shared his side of the story. Could this get any more complicated, man?
He brings out her birth certificate, said I ain't seen her in all these years. This man's almost come to tears because he hasn't seen her in over 30 years. They've taken her from him.
What I'm saying, what I don't get, you saying that you didn't know where she was.
I didn't.
But yet you said that you came.
This decades-old paternity mystery had gone on long enough. The results were in and were about to be revealed. Let's see if the daughter gets what she was hoping for, or if fate has other plans.
Mr. Tillman, you are her father.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
It's all right.
Yeah, baby, I'm sorry, but it was not my fault. No matter how much you're trying to blame me, they took you away from me.
A paternity mystery that has been simmering for 34 years. Yup. Miss Krieger claimed Mr. Dittmer's denial of parenthood was about as believable as the Loch Ness Monster. He, on the other hand, insisted he got hoodwinked into paying child support, and now he wanted payback.
Her best friend's folks told me she was messing around with this guy about the time that Jamie was conceived. So yes, she was messing around.
That's a lie.
No, it's not.
Now, this is unfortunate, Miss Krieger, Jamie, that you have to hear any of this.
From what I hear, my mom's admitted it was, but it was the sister before me.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn, because we're in for a wild ride. The baby mama immediately went into picture evidence, but Mr. Lee wasn't falling for that. Furthermore, he accused the baby mama, albeit a bit boldly, that she had been tricking him all his life. Uh-oh, trouble? Nope, much more like disaster in paradise.
Everybody, when there's babies born, compare and say how much they look like me on my dad's side of the family also. How could they look like me if I have a different dad, and that's from my dad's side of the family?
The older two children have blue eyes and blonde hair. Jamie's always had darker hair with a hazel or brown.
And you never claimed them or paid child support on them. Why?
Oh, the doubts and reservations hovering over Miss Krieger's pregnancy. These guys shared 2 more children, and yet Mr. Dittmer, our doubtful dad, was feeling as betrayed as Jon Snow in Game of Thrones.
She's the one that looks different than the older children. The older children have blonde hair, blue eyes. Jamie has dark hair, hazel or brown eyes. The older children are more athletic. Well, why would she trick me into paying child support like that, Your Honor? I mean, I wasn't even at the hospital when Jamie was born.
Moving on, we got to know the side of the daughter as to when she got to know about this all. And before the poor girl could finish, there went Mr. Lee interjecting again. He claimed Miss Lee switched her relationship status from committed to it's complicated with a side of other people. So much so as accusing the baby mama of going off the pill, with a dash of born-again virgin criticism. Yikes!
He kept saying that I would kidnap the kids, that she'd never see them again. It took me 2 years to get visitation, then they gave me supervised visitation.
No, it was your drinking, like you said earlier. I wasn't gonna let my little children go with you drunk and have you driving with them drunk.
If you didn't think Miss Krieger was your biological child, why the visits?
Let the he said, she said battle commence. Both these guys were accusing each other of infidelity and whatnot, and some of it was true though. Still, the baby daddy maintained he paid child support, and it wasn't about the money.
I've got the final payment right here. I'd like to present it to the court. I ended up talking to the attorney for the friend of the court, and I settled with him. They said I owed $13,000 at that time, and he said only $3,000 was owed in child support, that the rest of it was administrative fees, interest, and surcharges.
Yes.
Up next, we got to see the daughter accepting some of the things the supposed baby daddy did for her. However, the fella did pull some evil moves on her and her children, and those involved telling people he wasn't her father and their grandpa. Seriously, man?
He's helped me some, but he's also griped the whole way through. He told my daughter's dad that I wasn't his, and I had to hear about it, which is pretty...
No, I never told her.
What happened?
I told my middle child's dad, you guys were drinking, yes, but still.
About time the daughter poured out everything that had been bottled up inside her all these years, and she most definitely did. She shared how her life had been with the defendant behaving like that. And man, did that make the baby daddy a heartless jerk.
Well, I don't even know if I'm yours, but I just gave you $20 to help you buy some diapers. And so it got to the point where, why ask him for help? I mean, he's just got it in the back of his mind. I'm not his kid. It makes me feel worthless, and like, it's a lot of emotional abuse, and that's what sticks with you, and that's what stays.
The moment of truth, folks. It was here. And when I say we were ready for it, you better believe me, because this indeed was a wild ride stuffed with emotions. Miss Jamie was here for some much needed answers, and Judge Lake had them for her. Here we go.
You are her father.
Oh. I never had any doubts. It's just been dealing with all this.
And Mr. Dittmer?
I feel kind of relieved, Your Honor. I'm glad that she is, but her mother put such a doubt in my mind.
Mr. Alexander was suing to remove his name from his alleged 4-month-old daughter's birth certificate, claiming there was no way he was the dad. On the flip side, Miss Stewart also sued the baby daddy for childcare expenses and swore Mr. Alexander was the biological father. It's gonna be a long battle, and neither seems to want to back down.
You are suing your ex-girlfriend for $40 for the cost of the administration fee to legally remove your name from her 4-month-old daughter, Jariah's birth certificate, because there is absolutely no way you are her biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's rewind the tape to when these two lovebirds were on the rocks. After spotting some shady texts and calls from a mysterious Dexter on the baby mama's phone, the man's suspicions went through the roof, and that was just the start. But instead of confronting her, he let his doubts simmer. Then came a drunken bowling night when Miss Stewart left him with the kids and vanished till the wee hours. Now, that doesn't sound so good.
I seen text messages and several phone calls from this guy named Dexter. She wouldn't answer the phone when I was in the room. I guess she would wait until maybe I left or whatever, so that's kind of a suspicion for me.
But you never questioned her about it?
Yeah, I asked her about it, and she told me, like, don't worry about it, like, basically, like, it's none of my business.
Time to dive headfirst into the pregnancy drama. Miss Stewart ended up dropping the pregnancy bomb on the defendant, but the timing was sketchy. These guys had been on a break for 3 months, and there had been no hanky-panky. But that's not what Miss Stewart believed, and she took matters into her own hands then.
I didn't tell him because we were rocky at that time. It wasn't a solid foundation, so I didn't want to make it even worse by bringing the baby into the situation.
I did have doubt because when she told me she was pregnant, we were actually on a 3-month break, and we got back together like 2 months after that, and then that's when she told me she was pregnant.
Miss Stewart not only played detective, she also brought the evidence along with her to the court. Now that's what I'm talking about. However, that evidence didn't paint the baby daddy in good colors. Oh, he was up to no good at all.
The first one at the bottom, the 7:08 p.m., that is when he was gone. He told me that he was at his aunt's house, and obviously you can see there he's talking to a girl
so
right there.
At 7:08 p.m., his phone got a text from a number that's not yours that says, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yes.
Now, where does this mysterious Dexter come into this mix? The defendant wanted Mr. Alexander to feel exactly the way she did, and she concocted a plan with the help of her best friend. Enter Dexter.
I came up with a plan with my best friend. I changed her name in my phone to Dexter, and I was texting her pretending I was talking to a dude just so that he would think I was cheating because he cheated.
I've seen the text message about can I come see you? How you doing?
Yeah,
like that's her man when I'm supposed to be her man.
Mr. Alexander's sister came up next as his witness, and though she claimed to have been friends with the defendant for a long time, she sided with her brother on this one. She spilled the beans about secret breakup plans and hanging out with other guys, a tit-for-tat game that had been tearing this relationship apart.
Miss Stewart and I have been friends for over 15 years. We've always talked and told each other secrets about, you know, having backup plans as far as if you have a boyfriend, keeping one on the side for when your boyfriend makes you mad, you can, you know, just go talk to other guys or whatever. So as far as this guy goes, it's not a hoax. They actually hang out all the time.
No, that's false.
Next up, the baby mama shared how the plaintiff had taken no part in the pregnancy journey. She had been doing it all on her own with no help from him. So much so, the baby daddy ended up calling the beautiful baby something. Uh-oh, that's not gonna fly in this court, man.
Out of all of my doctor's appointments, he's only came to the finding out the gender, and then the last 2, I've gone to all of them by myself.
And this hurts you so much because you thought he would be there?
Yeah, and she doesn't deserve that. Look at her. She's so cute. Like, why would you deny her? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Moving on, Miss Stewart presented some more evidence of the baby daddy's bad attitude and plain spiteful behavior towards the child. And the guy showed no remorse at all over this. Check out the nerve of this baby daddy.
First you say, I need a favor. You're gonna be busy Sunday or Monday. And then he says, I don't know, it depends. And then you say, okay, well, I need you to watch the kids while I get my hair done. He says, I'll watch Jacoby, but Jariah, hell nah, find her daddy.
Time to take the baby mama and the baby out of their misery. They wanted the paternity doubt to be resolved once and for all. Will the results be able to shut the baby up or not? We'll see about that.
Mr. Alexander, you are her father.
I'm just happy at the end that the results came back like I said that they would.
I was a kid. I did everything with whoever. 18,
so you had grown up that year?
I wasn't grown up, no.
So you tried to get pregnant on purpose by Mr. Jennings?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Because you wanted to marry him that bad?
Yes, ma'am, I did, and I don't regret it, and I'd do it again.
A tumultuous relationship was built on shaky ground, and now it was shaken like crazy. Miss Salvo wanted the defendant to step up and be a father, but he wasn't singing that tune. Not so much. Apparently, the guy had proof that he wasn't the father, and baby mama was very particular about her taste in men.
How involved has Mr. Gonzalez been in your daughter's life thus far?
Your Honor, he knows Amaya's his daughter, but he refuses to take care of him. I've never, ever had sex with any Hispanic man but him. I prefer black people. I don't like Hispanic men. I was intoxicated at the time. I was drunk, he came over, he got me at the right time.
Miss Salvo and Mr. Gonzalez's love story reads more like a parody of a romantic comedy. She claimed it was a one-time passion. However, Mr. Gonzalez insisted it was a series of rendezvous. Yup, and he went quite graphic with the detail. Cue the sarcastic slow clap, please.
I was thirsty. I got up. I went to get something to drink in the kitchen. When I opened the fridge, I was naked. Her mom saw me. Her mom was like, wow. Her mom didn't get mad at me or nothing.
Wow?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You were naked in her kitchen and she said, wow.
Yes, ma'am.
The plot thickened as the baby mama explained the circumstances that led up to the pregnancy, juggling men like a circus performer. Yup. But in her defense, it was only 2 men. Guess she was playing the field and doing her thing.
The reason we stopped with contact because, I mean, he did help me financially when I was pregnant because at first I thought that she was his. But when I had her, when I looked at her, I just knew it wasn't his. My ex-boyfriend, she doesn't look like that. She looks Hispanic to the fullest. His current kids look a lot different than that.
Now, initially, the baby mama wasn't sure baby Amaya was her boyfriend's. But that theory went out the window pretty soon when she started resembling the defendant day by day. And so, the alarm bell started ringing off in her head. She had picture evidence to support her claim as well.
You claim Mr. Gonzalez has a dimple, and here, Amaya, I see that one dimple. So you believe this is the reason why she's ultimately his biological child?
Yes, ma'am.
What other reason, though? I mean, Jerome can attest to this. We see in this courtroom all the time that looks can be deceiving.
Looks can be awfully deceiving. The paternity court was certainly proof of that enough. And so, the judge ended up raising the most important question of all. Did the supposed boyfriend have a paternity test done on him? Let's see what the mommy had to say about that.
Did you test your ex at all?
I did test him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, and what happened?
He's not the father.
Well, that's what your evidence is, Miss Salvo. Okay, so you had your ex tested, and it would reveal that he was excluded as a possibility.
Yeah.
Enter the doubts and betrayals, ladies and gentlemen, because the baby daddy was still denying paternity. Mr. Gonzalez countered with accusations, including an eyebrow-raising revelation about a best friend's involvement. Looks like he wasn't the only Hispanic the baby mama had a dalliance with. Trust issues? More like trust obliterated.
Your best friend had naked pictures of Miss Salvo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Salvo?
I'm not even going, he's lying.
Miss Salvo, were you with any other men during this window of time?
No.
Besides your ex-boyfriend and Mr. Gonzalez?
I was with nobody. I don't even know who his supposed to be best friend is because he didn't even talk to nobody.
A wild ride of emotions and questionable decisions coming right up, people. Better buckle up. Looks like Miss Salvo took a trip to the mall to meet a certain someone, and the supposed motorcycle rendezvous ultimately ended up exposing her.
Miss Salvo, do you remember that afternoon, that evening?
Your Honor, the day I went to the mall was to meet up with my current ex-boyfriend. That was when 18 and under. Yeah, I was young and dumb. I was a kid. I did everything with whoever.
So you had grown up that year?
I wasn't grown up, no.
Even after all that, Miss Salvo still claimed she was faithful to only 2 men. Yeah, but Mr. Gonzalez wasn't buying it. Nope. Was it a circus or a merry-go-round of lovers? Confusion reigned supreme over here as the baby daddy shared another instance involving yet another Mexican man. Yep, Mama couldn't get enough.
Your Honor, that boy's been obsessed with me since elementary school. I've been with him since elementary school. He said he wanted a kid
You've
by me.
been with him since elementary?
No, not with, no.
Okay.
No. He was just a friend, but nothing sexual has ever occurred.
But was that the statement you made to Mr.
No,
Gonzalez?
Your Honor, I told him specifically that he wanted a kid by me.
All this ruckus led to the baby mama raising the baby all by herself. She claimed the baby daddy was of no help at all. Mr. Gonzalez immediately came to his own defense. However, the real role of the father was being played by the plaintiff's fiancée. Yeah, the woman was engaged now. No kidding.
Ms. Salvo says you've been there to help her with the child.
I've been there since day one, since Mike came out. Man.
So was Mr. Gonzalez there? Not there?
No.
And so what do you know about this situation?
Oh, I know. I feel like I'm the daddy, but I don't even have no equipment to be the daddy. But I am the daddy.
Enough with this drama. These guys went nowhere, just kept going around in circles. The results were looming large, and it was the moment to reveal them. Is Mr. Gonzalez gonna hear those 4 magical words? We're about to find out.
Mr. Gonzalez, it has been determined by this court that you are not the father.
Can I still come around and see Amaya and help her out if I can? Because for a year and 4 or 5 months, she's been my daughter and she's still gonna be my daughter. And I told her that before she came in the show.
An angry daddy was here with his daughter, and they were ready to fight the claim of the defendant. All his life, Mr. Jennings believed he was the father of their daughter. And then, out of nowhere, Miss Lynn had a change of heart. But he wasn't ready to let go that easily. And so, they were ready to fight it out.
So, Mr. Jennings, what do you believe is the real reason Ms. Lynn is now saying you aren't the father?
Just out of spite, jealousy.
Spite? Are you spiteful, Ms. Lynn?
No, first and foremost, if I was spiteful, I wouldn't be standing here right now, because my daughter asked me to be here. And
so
as far
why?
as her being
Why
13, I
why
didn't
now?
tell her, his wife told her.
The 2 star-crossed teenagers hell-bent on defying their parents' wishes. Sounds like the plot of a drama, right? Nope, that was just the case with these guys. They rushed with things so fast, you're bound to get dizzy. But hold on, the baby mama was apparently up to no good. There were multiple contenders in the ring. Drama level teenage soap opera.
In order for us to get married at my age without my parents' signature, I had to be pregnant.
So you tried to get pregnant on purpose by
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am,
Jennings?
I did.
Because you wanted to marry him that
Yes,
bad?
ma'am, I did. And I don't regret it, and I'd do it again because my daughter came from that. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Let's dive into the doubts and reservations that surrounded the pregnancy. And there were quite a lot. Miss Lynn admitted to sleeping around, but Mr. Jennings claimed he had no idea about her affairs. Nada! The bombshell? Now they were trying to figure out when the daughter was actually conceived.
Mr. Jennings?
He knew I was trying to get pregnant. He never asked for any of the other details. We were in Alabama between February and mid-March. He's got it listed as April and May. That's not true.
So wait, when did you get married? Did you? It says June 21st.
That's correct.
Is that true? Do you
That is
anybody
correct.
have proof of that? Bring up.
I do.
About time the baby daddy dropped the bomb that he was in fact aware of only one possible rival in this paternity showdown. But that was their sworn enemy. Oh, mama! But guess what? The dates don't match up at all. Alabama mountaintop rendezvous, anyone?
Ms. Lynn, did you ever tell Mr. Jennings that you had also slept with other men, or did you just keep that?
Yes, ma'am, and he was well aware.
Do you remember that conversation, Mr. Jennings?
Yes, but as far as knowing she was trying to get pregnant with other people and all, I know nothing about that. If I'd have known she'd been sleeping with anybody else, I might not even have known Taylor.
Cue the daughter entering this scene with her teenage angst. At 13, she heard the earth-shattering news that Mr. Jennings might not be her real daddy, and so the identity crisis began. But she wasn't giving up. She made it her mission to find out the truth.
When did you start acting on that notion you had? You couldn't let go of this notion.
When I was 23, I asked her and she didn't tell me anything. She went to her room. And so I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go through her people I remember as being her childhood friends and see if any of them know who the other possibilities could be.
Birth certificates and Facebook stalking, the modern-day weapons in the battle for paternity truth. Miss Lynn's social media sleuthing led her to a potential biological father. Sherlock Holmes strikes again. But wait, there was another guy in the shadows who wanted no part of this paternity circus. Dear Lord.
Miss Lynn, you knew all about this when she met up with this other man for dinner?
After the fact.
After the fact.
Yes, ma'am.
And the man she reached out to, was she correct and was he correct? Was he one of the possibilities?
Yes.
He was?
Yes.
And do you believe he is Taylor's biological father?
I honestly don't know, but she does look like him.
It's Judgment Day, and the results were in. Miss Taylor was on the edge of her seat and all ready to put this all behind her once and for all. Let's see whether she gets the answers she was looking for.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Jennings, you are not the father. I know this was not the news you wanted.
Taylor, just remember this, baby. It takes more than having a baby to be a parent. He's always been your daddy. He's always gonna be your daddy.
Two dads fighting over the same daughter. Both were sure they were the real deal. In one corner, we had Mr. Thompson, who had relations with the mother, while in the other corner was Mr. Fresneda, who was the husband of the said baby mama. The 30-year-long paternity battle was going to reach a conclusion today.
Me and her mother had relations while Miss Fresneda was away. And it came back into the picture. I stopped seeing Sonia and she was pregnant. When the child was born, family members came to me stating, that she looks like me and things of that nature. And Sonia said no, she knows who she got pregnant by.
So here was the scoop. Mr. Thompson had a thing with Miss Robinson's mom way back when, while Mr. Fresneda was MIA. Fast forward to the baby's arrival, and the family started dropping hints that she might be a Thompson, not a Fresneda. Yup. However, the poor girl who was in the middle of all this was left in the dark.
I got a phone call saying that she had passed away, and I was like...
Are you speaking of Jasmine's mother, Miss Robinson's mother?
Yes, and it was her wishes to say that it was Mr. Fresneda's baby. They raised her, but I'm here today to prove that I am the father. In my heart, she's my daughter.
Cue the heartache and betrayal, people, because Miss Robinson was hurt that nobody spilled the beans about her potential paternity. Now, the plaintiff did reach out to her in the past a couple of times, and the last time when he did contact her was after the passing of her mother. Guess the guy was just waiting for this time, and boom! He dropped this bombshell on his daughter.
In June 2010, he had messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, tell your mom that I said hi. But I just brushed it off. I'm like, my mom has her own Facebook page. It's just somebody that she knows. So I just left it alone. Didn't say anything about it. And then 5 years later, in 2015, he had reached out to me again.
Time for a little rewind, folks, because there was a lot to unpack here. Initially, Miss Robinson thought someone was playing a cruel joke on her. But a call with Aunt Felicia, and bam! This nightmare turned into a reality. So the hush-hush love affair of her mother dearest came to light. About time, too.
I had told him, I said, Dad, there's this guy named Thompson that had reached out to me on Facebook and saying that he's my dad. And then he had said kind of the same story that my Aunt Felicia told me. He said that years ago, he had came around saying that he was my dad, but my mom was saying no, and he loved my mom so much and just loved me so much that he just always said I was his daughter.
Now, the craziest thing was that they all lived in that small town, and Mr. Thompson used to run into the mother and the daughter from time to time. And his heart ached. But the secret was to be kept, so he went along his merry way.
I feel like that's when it really should have came out. Like, you see me and you feel like if you feel in your heart so bad that I'm your daughter.
Yes, and I'm so sorry for that, but their relationship was happy, and at the time when she was conceived, I wasn't sure myself. So it took me a minute to get to where I'm at today. And the reason why I'm here today is because I can't live with it.
Finally, Mr. Fresneda got the much-needed time to state his case. He was fully aware of the situation that went on between his wife and the plaintiff, but he took his wife's word and spent all these years believing that and raising the girl as her own. However, he did have one grievance with Mr. Thompson.
The point I'm trying to make in here, Your Honor, that I wish that he would have addressed me before he sent her a Facebook or whatever. I know he couldn't be able to find me because we had no contact with each other. He lives in one town and I live in another.
Enter Aunt Felicia, the keeper of family secrets. Now, she was here to shed some much-needed light on this family's secret of years. According to her, the baby mama would always get mad whenever the paternity of Miss Robinson was brought up. Well, ain't that guilt rearing its ugly head? Moreover, she also claimed the daughter started resembling more and more like the plaintiff, which made the secret much harder to be kept.
You felt like Ms. Robinson looked different from the other children. And so you attributed that to the fact that Mr. Thompson could potentially be her biological father.
Yeah, sure.
And when you addressed your sister, she maintained that Mr. Fresneda was her child's biological father, and there was no question in her mind.
Absolutely.
Now, this was the first time the alleged baby daddy laid eyes on Miss Robinson since she grew up, and some very real concerns of his made him take this step to finally settle this paternity doubt once and for all.
How do you feel as you look at her?
I feel hurt. I also feel happy. You know, I respect Georgie. You know, we know each other. We're not strangers, you know, but I think it just had to come out, you know, and that's why we're here today.
Yes, Ms. Robinson, what would you like?
I honestly feel like if my mom didn't pass away, that this wouldn't have came out.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the DNA results. Will this 30-year-old paternity secret finally get sorted out? Or will it complicate things even more with these families? Well, the answer was in that envelope. So, let's hear it.
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry.
Ms. Smith is not related to Nala Manning Smith.
Then who could it be then? Because I was the only guy I was dealing with. Then who could it be? Can I leave?
Are not the father.
There you go. I rest my case, Your Honor. Look, I'm sorry, but hey, it's out of my hands now.
Miss Walters wanted the plaintiff to accept paternity and finally step up to the role of the father. Sounds simple enough, right? If only that were the case. Because Mr. Johnson wasn't about to fall for the baby mama's manipulation again. Or so he claimed. Oh, this drama's gonna be juicy. I can feel it.
Things were shaded from the first day when I met her. I met her back in 2015, November, and I was just out of town, just looking to have some fun. And probably three days later, we met and we ended up sleeping together.
So how did you meet?
We met over a day nap.
Buckle up, people, because a bunch of information is coming right up. Now imagine a lunch date gone wrong, a mysterious wedding ring, and a roller coaster of romance. That pretty much sums up their situation. A swipe on the dating app, and these guys ended up in each other's arms, having the time of their lives. Their versions were different though. No surprise there.
It was me and two of my friends, well, one of my friends, I brung over for his friend, and I had my wedding ring in my pocket, and I pulled it out and put it back on. And he was like, what is that?
Exactly.
So you met on a dating site, but you didn't have any idea she was married?
No, it still says she's single on a dating site.
Now wait a minute. It seemed the baby mama had more than one man on her mind. Oh yes. While having fun with the plaintiff, she was busy on the phone with another dude as well. Quite a busy bee indeed. But lo and behold, the baby daddy wasn't a saint either.
The phone rings, I'm cool, I'm chilling. Because the whole time I'm married too. See, that's what she didn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I had a whole girlfriend.
And a whole girlfriend?
I'm married and got a girlfriend.
Oh.
Well, the financial transactions and the phone interactions left a lot to wonder about, that's for sure. Moving on, Miss Walters dropped the bombshell on baby daddy's head. And his response? A nonchalant congratulations. Yup. Now, the protection was on or off? That was the real question. Baby daddy believed it was. The mommy? Not so much.
She called me or whatever, and she said she was pregnant. I told her congratulations, and she was like, I'm telling you, cause it might be yours. I'm like, what? Cause I bought a box of condoms as soon as I got to the city. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying it was protected sex for you because you had already decided you were going.
I had a whole girlfriend and a wife. Why would I not use protection?
Time to examine the window of conception. The baby mama was persistent that Mr. Johnson was the only player in town during the time she conceived. Miss Walters wanted to be, so she kept him in the loop, regardless of the fact whether he was thrilled with that prospect or not. Seems about right.
About the whole situation, I never told him this is your kid or anything of that nature. I just told him to be honest because I didn't want to go 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years down the line and then be like, oh yeah, well here you go, Mr. Johnson, you got a kid by me here in Arkansas that I never told you about.
So you decided to be honest?
Yes, ma'am.
But he said it's not my child.
Moving on, it appeared the baby daddy wasn't too present during the whole journey, but he did ask for some baby pictures when she was born. You would think his heart would have melted a little. But nope, that didn't happen. He got the pictures so that he could do some comparisons on his own.
She didn't look like nobody. She was born early, so she didn't look like nobody. She looked really swollen and really wrinkly. So, I mean, I can't say that she looked like me. She didn't look like him. She didn't look like nobody. She
Y'all ain't got that picture of the other dude. Don't talk about
what other dude?
The whole dude you made.
Now, baby mama was sure Mr. Johnson was her guy, and she had definite proof of that as well. Good for her, because the court runs on proof of evidence. The defendant had the other guy already tested for paternity, and yet the plaintiff wasn't falling for those results. Nuh-uh.
Probability of paternity was determined to be 0.00%.
Yes, Your Honor. I found out I was pregnant December 27th. When I went to my follow-up appointment, they put my date of conception as around December 2nd and December 5th. I was only seeing Mr. Johnson at that time.
By the looks of it, the baby daddy appeared conflicted and torn all over this paternity mess. According to Miss Walters, he had never once denied paternity in front of her. He didn't agree with that, obviously. And so the battle continued.
She said we live in 2 different states, so I reached out.
But that was after I made a long Facebook status about him not reaching out to her. If he felt like that my daughter was not his, why do you feel the need to reach out? Why do you feel the need to text me and say, oh, how's the princess? Or how y'all doing video chatting and all that if you know that this is not your kid?
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, DNA results. The sure shot way to end this paternity drama. Whether baby Caden gets to have a father after he leaves or not, all depends on those answers in the envelope.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Johnson, you are not the father. Ms. Walters, Mr. Johnson is not Amir's biological father, so clearly there is a third guy.
Imagine encountering your ex-girlfriend a full 24 years after a painful breakup. The surprise of seeing her again would be substantial on its own, but imagine your astonishment when she introduces you to a child. Your child! Your response? Let me guess, a denial of any possibility of fathering a child all those years ago. Well, Mr. Williams was in a similar situation.
We was never in a relationship or anything. We would just hook up after a few drinks and stuff, you know, we'd probably go back to my place or whatever was presentable. And we'd have sex and stuff, but, you know, other than that there was nothing. We were never in a relationship. That's the bottom line.
Oh my, what a responsible man. I gotta salute you for your magic trick in the courtroom. But according to the defendant, they never used protection. I mean, it's really hard to believe either of them, and it's annoying. How about we listen to some more facts? All right, Mama, it's your turn.
He knew I was in another relationship.
I never
And
knew
I
it was
did
another
call him
relationship.
and told him it's a possibility that Lexi could be his. I did tell him. And then a couple of years later, I didn't see him no more. I didn't see him no more till Lexi turned what? 2 years ago, I was in the church shouting, changed my life and everything. So I don't know what he do. No, I don't.
What? Did you just hear the alleged dad? This old-timer / party buff came to know about his oh-so daughter through friends. And oh boy, you don't want to miss out on that story. So prepare yourself for a flashback.
Then we saw each other on the bus around about that time too. And she was telling me that your daughter want to talk to you or something like that there. I said, what you mean my daughter want to talk to me? Who is you talking about? I'm still trying to figure out who is she talking about. I still didn't know no name or nothing.
Okay, back to the future. However, Mr. Williams started to hear about the rumors 3 years ago, and he seemed pretty annoyed by that. But the alleged papa had it all covered until he ran into the ex-girlfriend while taking the morning bus. Probably should have Ubered that day.
I met him on the bus and he asked me how my daughter doing. I said she's doing fine. When Lexi got back here and I allowed him to move back, he came to my house to see Alexis a couple of times. To my house.
One time.
More than one time,
One
twice.
time, and then me and Derek came this past December. That's twice.
Time to break the ice. Miss Alexis, whose paternity was in question, was just standing there like a puppet with tears. After ignoring her for 5 minutes, Judge Lake finally decides to ask her for the testimony. She was so still, I almost mistook her for a mannequin. Nah, just kidding.
I was coming home from work and my mama told me that my daddy wanted to see me and talk to me. I said, okay. When I got there, he was already there. We hugged, we talked, laughed a little bit. We had dinner. Not one time did he say he wasn't my father.
Wait a minute. Why wait 21 years and conceal the father, Miss Smith? Feels like you've been doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo until your finger got stuck on poor Mr. Williams. But just like that, Miss Smith admits something that clarifies a lot of things.
I got 4 kids. I took care of all 4.
4 kids.
I'm not pending on no man.
No, the daddy. There you go lying again.
I'm not lying. I figured that it was Mr. Williams on. Yes, I did.
Figured and knew?
Figured if it's Mr. Williams or somebody else.
Are there any other options, ma'am, besides Mr. Williams?
It's one more.
Miss Smith, what are you saying? This means that you had more men in your life than cards in a playing deck. And on that note, this decades-old paternity puzzle wasn't about to end. Until and unless the DNA queen pulls the lever that sprinkled some truth on everyone.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Williams, you are not the father.
There you go. I rest my case, Your Honor. Look out.
You are not the father.
Can I give her a hug?
If she will allow you.
Look out. I'm sorry.
Picture this. The baby daddy was gone. But he left behind a child whose paternity was a huge question mark. The stakes were higher than ever for Miss Manning, as she desperately wanted the mother and sister of the deceased to accept her daughter as part of their family. But those guys did not seem too convincing of this.
Miss Manning called her and told her that she was possibly pregnant with my son's child. Then I contacted Miss Manning to meet with her. I've seen Miss Manning in the past, asked him about it. He said that she was just his friend. So I wanted to know, being that my son wasn't here.
Now Mr. Naffy was out of the picture, and that fact made the paternity mess a whole lot more difficult to sort out. Yep, now hear this. Just 6 weeks after the tragic demise, this baby mama announced she was carrying his child. Wow, the daddy's family obviously didn't quite roll out the red carpet on this news. Oh dear.
I'm really hurt because this never came to my knowledge that it was any doubt that my daughter was not his child. I felt as though they should have came to me if they had any doubts. To me, my daughter looks just like her son. She even smiles like him, and it's hurting me real bad. Like, I can't take it.
Hold on to that popcorn, folks, because this was about to get even more juicy. Apparently, the baby daddy had been quite busy in his life. Yep, and on top of that, he had not 1, but 2 women pregnant at the same time. Yeah, you heard that right. And here's more. It was the guy's sister that had real doubts over this whole scenario. Check this out.
She called me and said, well, is a possibility that I'm pregnant by your brother? And I asked her, I said, are you sure? Because my brother never mentioned anything about her being pregnant. He only mentioned about Miss Caesar being pregnant. And I had doubts because this is not her first time. She also lied and said she was pregnant before.
The baby mama wasted no second jumping to her defense. Guess she didn't like being insulted like that. Interesting approach. However, the damage was done. The one who was accepting of her pregnancy, aka the grandma, started doubting the paternity as well. Uh-oh. Bet baby mama didn't see that coming now, did she?
I have no issues with Miss Manning. Like Miss Manning said, I've been there from the beginning. From the moment she told me, I've been there, I've been supportive. But when my daughter brought the situation to me that one of Miss Manning's friends called her and told my daughter that it's possibility that numerous of guys could be Nala's father.
Continuing that train wreck, we got to know Miss Smith was the one who involved the grandma. And yep, she felt a heck of a lot of responsibility for putting her mother through that, knowing she had some serious reservations regarding the baby mama and her shenanigans. Well, it's never too late, or something like that.
I understand that the stakes are very high. Another part of your doubt stems from the fact that he was dating someone else at the time.
He wasn't staying with us. He was living with her.
And that young woman is actually here today.
Yes, and he's dating.
Ron, can you please escort Miss Caesar into the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, the baby daddy was a real two-timer, wasn't he? About time the second baby mama joined this paternity drama. But wait a minute, before you get your hopes up, the woman just ended up complicating it even more. Yup, for starters, both women didn't seem to agree on one thing. Forget being on the same page. They weren't even on the same planet for that matter.
When I found out about Mrs. Manning's pregnancy, I found out from another family member. First thing I called was Mrs. Smith to ask her, did she know? She wanted to meet with me face to face to discuss it, but she didn't know that they had that type of a relationship.
And so now you each have a daughter, you have a baby girl too.
Yeah.
In the words of the first baby mama, both were really blinded by the lies. Yep, they both got played by another baby daddy big time. No surprise there, I saw that coming a mile away. But now, he was gone, and two very real babies were in need of a family.
That night, he came to my house and he was brought a TV over there because he was supposed to play a games with my sister and her baby father. So therefore, for him to say that I was a jump off, why are you bringing your belongings to my house? Why are you being around my family? Not only that, why are you building a relationship with my little brother? Why? Why lie? Just tell the truth.
While the grandma was healing through this loss, this baby girl definitely helped her through this grief. But the clouds of paternity doubt kept hovering over her. And following that train of thought, Miss Caesar revealed that she too had heard about the rumors surrounding Miss Manning through the grapevine. Wow, the woman couldn't catch a break, could she?
It's not just me, it's just not Miss Caesar. It was multiple people. Even a close friend of hers was telling me, you know, she got around with this person, giving me a list.
Your Honor, may I speak?
I'm confused of how she's surprised about this, and this is something that was told from different people. I don't understand.
Dear Lord, the atmosphere of the courtroom was as heavy as it could be. The tension was palpable. But worry not, folks, because the moment of truth was upon us. Let's see whether the deceased really left behind a piece of himself in the shape of baby Nala, or does Miss Manning land in even more troubled waters? Here goes nothing.
This court has determined Miss Smith is not related to Nala Manning Smith.
Then who could it be then? Because I was the only guy I was dealing with. Then who could it be? Can I leave?
Just take a deep breath.
When she picked
Yes, I did.
she came dressed in her clear hooker shoes and this.
Hooker shoes?
She's in clear shoes with money still in them.
Okay, that was for decoration.
We was having problems in our relationship because the simple fact he was not showing me any attention. He just wasn't being a man that I expected him to be.
Mr. Mason and Miss Malone have been having a lot of marital troubles because Mr. Mason caught Miss Malone in the act of cheating. Thus, paternity doubt. While the girlfriend claimed that there was no reason for denial, and the plaintiffs need DNA proof.
You were walking in the alleys, Ms. Malone?
Yes, I was sneaking around, but there was a break.
You were sneaking around doing what?
Seeing other guys. But there was a break because he wasn't showing me any attention.
We wasn't on a break at all. We wasn't on a break.
Were you all
committed?
committed?
We was in a relationship.
Your Honor,
still.
yeah, we've been on and off for 3 years now.
This woman's got real guts. It turns out that the two started dating online, and when they met, they just knew they had to take the relationship to another level. But once they moved in together, baby mama showed Mr. Mason her true colors. He was shocked and heartbroken. According to the alleged father, he wanted to work on these issues because of how much he loved her.
I had a friend watching my front door who lived right across from where we lived at.
Oh, you had a watchdog, right?
Yes, Your Honor, every time I went to work. She blamed it on because me and her wasn't having any intimacy or anything like that.
Do you remember that confrontation, Ms. Malone?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what did you respond?
I told him that it was my father that came to the door.
Then, a couple of months into the relationship, a friend of Mr. Mason told him that he had caught his wife sneaking around with strange men in their cars. Now, that's not very fair to the guy at the podium, but he knew he couldn't do anything until he had proper evidence. So, he decided to become a detective and launch a proper investigation.
I cheated on Mr. Mason. We was having problems in our relationship because the simple fact he was not showing me any attention. He just wasn't being a man that I expected him to be.
Okay, so let me say this. When it comes to the window of conception, when you were out with this other person, was that during the window of conception?
Yes, Your Honor, it was.
And the worst part? All of this cheating has made Mr. Mason doubt if his daughter Avery even really is his. That's why he's in court today, just so he can know for sure if he is Avery's biological father. Because after all, the defendant told the entire court that she was having relationships with multiple men while she conceived little Avery.
I overheard a conversation between her and another individual about she found the other guy on a website and how much Avery and the other guy and the other guy's child looked just alike. When I brought it to her attention, she said she didn't want me to find out like this. I was awake and I overheard everything.
Once Mr. Mason found out that his wife's pregnant, he decided to take the game into his own hands. Guess what he did? He went and told every single one of Miss Malone's family members that their daughter was pregnant and the child wasn't even his. How shocked everyone must have been to be dragged into all the drama of one shameless woman.
At first, it was two guys that popped up at our doorstep saying they were Avery's father.
What? When you say this gentleman popped up, he says there's even another gentleman that came. It just is hard for me to believe that you can say 100% certain that you believe Mr. Mason is the biological father when you're admitting that you were intimate with other people during the window.
Then, even Miss Malone's mother is brought into the courtroom to explain her side of the story. She staunchly defends her daughter and doesn't want Mr. Mason to be the father of Avery. Well, she should be scolding her shameless daughter, but that's not the case here. And the most shocking part? Miss Malone's pregnant again.
Is there a question as to the paternity of this child as well?
Your Honor, yes, I had doubt because at that time we were not together. We had broken up and I was with this other guy.
You had moved on and you were now dating this guy.
She was having a relationship with him, but yet
cheated on
him with me.
Okay, it keeps turning into a lot of cheating anecdotes. It turns out that it's just not in Miss Malone's bones to be a loyal woman. She had a man who was willing to give her everything, but she threw that right out the window by being a very shameless person. Now, there's just the results to see who is Avery's true father.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Mason, you are not her father. When it comes to the child that Ms. Malone is currently carrying, Mr. Mason, you are the father.
This duo had been having a pretty rocky relationship over 8 years, until suddenly, Kelly decided that she just wants out. According to her, the defendant had been unfaithful to her and started doubting the paternity of their kid. But who's telling the truth here? Is it Miss Hadel who's in the wrong, or is it Mr. Andrews? There's only one way to find out.
How does Mr. Andrews relate to Amarella because of his paternity doubt?
He calls his child and Amarella not in front of our children.
Really? Is that true, Mr. Andrews? That's not right.
No, it's not right. That's due to the things that she has said and done. She told me two different names that my child could be somebody else's child. So how can I trust that?
Kelly starts her story by saying that the two of them have been having an amazing time together for a while, but then she started to get suspicious. It turns out that baby daddy might have been sleeping around, but did she have any proof to support her statements? Whereas on the other hand, the defendant believes that the kid's not his because his wife had been the one sleeping around.
These are the reasons you believe you are not the father. You saw sexual text messages from another man. Is that correct?
Correct.
Explain.
the same person who I see was text message from, it's the same guy who she was having an affair with all along from the whole get-go. So when I seen that text message, my whole thought process was, it's gotta be his baby.
So, after he'd told his side of the story, everyone's pretty convinced that he's the guy who's been wronged in the relationship. No matter how much Kelly tries to pin the blame on him, the evidence against her is much stronger. Now, what does she have to say in her defense? Will she own up to her behavior, or will she make more shameless excuses?
Listen, you all have been together on and off for 8 years. He has 2 other children outside, 3 other children outside of the relationship?
During our relationship.
No.
Yes.
What kind of mess is this?
She's lying.
Right.
She's lying. She's lying.
You're gonna get the side eye now.
Even Judge Lauren is pretty shocked by all of this chaos. She asks the courtroom in great shock what kind of relationship this is. Kelly keeps going behind Maurice's back, and when Judge Lauren confronts her, she smiles and says she did it for her comfort. Absolutely shameless. This woman just won't stop.
Did you tell him that there were 2 other potential fathers? Did you say that
No, Honor,
to him?
this is what I said, and I'm gonna let you know what happened. He was saying this person and this person is her daddy. I said, okay.
Because you was
Then
having affairs with both of
okay,
them.
then,
'Cause she was having
no, I
affairs with
was
both
not.
guys.
Either way, so I just agreed with him because that's what he wanted to hear, so I said, okay.
On top of that, Kelly dared to tell Maurice to his face that she thinks their kid might have been conceived because of someone else. But it doesn't stop there. She ends up talking about how there are 2 more potential fathers. It leaves Maurice pretty heartbroken, but he decides that this selfish woman doesn't deserve anything from him.
You all sound like you're like 16 years old.
Trust me, I know.
Arguing back and forth, and you got these little beautiful children. And from what I'm saying, I don't even know how you have time to make babies because you don't stop talking. If you're doing this in here, I can only imagine what you're doing at home.
Well, it seems like there's only one way to settle this matter. Kelly claims that Maurice is the father of their kid, even though she'd been cheating on him with multiple people. Meanwhile, Maurice has had enough, and all he wants is proof that he's not the father. With that, it's time to skip to the big revelation and lay the matter to rest for good.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Andrews, you are the father.
Scotty and Tiffany have been fighting for a long time, and the fight has been about the paternity of their beautiful little daughter, Zaylee. Baby Daddy believes that he's the one who's Zaylee's actual father, but Tiffany refuses to let the defendant spend time with the little girl, all because she really hates Scotty.
Your Honor, I believe it's just out of pure hatred. She just doesn't want me to have visitation. I drive 160 miles every other weekend just to pick up my daughter and drop her off.
You say she hates you?
She hates.
Why does she hate you?
She hates me because at the end of the relationship, when things got rocky, I'll admit it, I did go to another woman. I'll be the first to admit that. You know, it was my mistake.
So it turns out that the reason the plaintiff really hates Scotty is that because when they were together, ex-boyfriend cheated on her multiple times. Even he admits it in front of everyone. Well, at least he owns up to his mistakes. So why does Tiffany take it out on their daughter? That's not fair to the little girl.
You pay $50 a week.
Just under $50 a week.
And that's not very much to get what she needs.
Is it enough to buy her clothes so she doesn't have to wear cut-off sweatpants and the same t-shirt every time I pick her up?
I do that because it's
Is
just what it
it enough money to buy her underwear so you don't got to keep putting her in diapers at 4
I
years
have
old?
underwear for her.
Scotty's been trying everything to be close to his daughter. He's the one who drives from one state to another to come spend time with her, and he's even paying for Zaylee's child support. Even Judge Lauren is shocked why Mommy doesn't let him spend time with the little girl.
I believed I was, and still believe, I was the only biological father. We were at family court talking to the family court commissioner about custody and the things that go along with that, like where she'd be going to school, her doctor, and all that. And Ms. Miller brings it up that I could possibly not be the father because of another man that was involved.
But Tiffany has her math to add here. According to her, she kept a check of all her dates, and they say that when Zaylee was conceived, she wasn't sleeping with the guy at the podium. She had been intimate with someone else, and by her logic, it is impossible at all that Zaylee is Scotty's daughter. Well, that sure confuses me more than it clears things up.
What was the problem exactly? You let him sign the birth certificate?
Because we were engaged. I thought we were gonna have a happy life and raise our daughter together until about 3 months after she was born. One of his friends told me everything that he was doing throughout our entire relationship, cheating on me, going to multiple places to meet multiple girls.
So, after all the back and forth, it's still pretty unclear what exactly is Tiffany's problem with Scotty. Here's a man who's willing to do everything for his daughter, even provide for her and drive so many miles just to see her and take care of her. Yet Zaley's mother insists that he's not the father. Then, who really is the father here?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Rasmussen, you are not the father. Miss Miller, that's a lot of nerve considering the alternative is somebody that don't want nothing to do with you or your child.
I'm sorry.
That's a lot of nerve.
Your heart will undoubtedly ache to watch Mr. Matthew Threlkeld. And if you ask why, well, it has to do with the way his wife treated him. Let's start with this question. What was Matthew's wife doing at home while he was out serving his country? Sleeping with 20 men!
He hacked my Facebook. He invaded my privacy, and he looked into my stuff. But
Actually, ma'am, see, she's gonna,
No.
that's already a lie. I see, oh, baby, I can't wait to see you later on tonight. I had a great time with you. I can't wait to see, the last few days we spent together. It's been amazing.
These are the messages
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
saying
Yes,
that
ma'am.
your wife is entertaining while you're serving your country.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is why the plaintiff is here in court to present a case against his wife, Brittany, to Judge Lauren. Most importantly, he wants to confirm if his 18-month-old daughter, Liliana, is even his. After all, it's his right to suspect the girl's paternity after what his wife did behind his back.
Ms. Threlkeld, what? Your husband's overseas, serving his country, serving our country, keeping us all safe. What in the world led you to entertain these type of messages on your Facebook, and you've admitted that you had a few indiscretions. What is going on?
Damn, this mommy has absolutely no shame. How could she ever cheat on her loyal husband like that? Even Judge Lauren is pretty shocked. The biggest shocker? Brittany lies that Matthew promised to divorce her. He was even going to send her divorce papers. It seems like she's coming up with all kinds of lies to excuse her shameless behavior.
When the day I was supposed to come back home from overseas, we were told before we even got on the plane that there's gonna be the color guard, the motorcycles that drive, in front, the news was gonna be there. I get there and not my father, my mother, my wife, so like I said, we'll quote that, weren't even there. We get there, they call everybody's names up, everybody's clapping and cheering, they come to my name and it's just dead quiet. No one was there.
But the worst thing that the defendant did was when Matthew came back from Afghanistan and she came to pick him up in skimpy clothes, she was dressed, to simply say, as a hooker who had money falling out of her dress pockets. Now, that puts poor potential fathers in a difficult position.
Even though you've had this conversation that you're done while you were overseas, you come back and you have in your mind, maybe if I could get her to stop stripping, we could maybe make it work. I get her pregnant, she can stay off the pole and stay in the house.
Yes, ma'am.
That's in your mind.
So, now Brittany and Matthew have 3 kids, and because of all the stuff that she's done behind his back, Matthew highly doubts that the last kid belongs to him. Because of that, he had to make the difficult decision to opt for a paternity test just so he could reveal the truth.
In the case of Threlkeld versus Threlkeld, pertaining to 1-year-old Liliana, Mr. Threlkeld, you are Liliana's father.
Things get crazy on paternity court.
I feel like, would I have to be on my deathbed to find out, if he's not my dad? That's not fair to me.
I understand and I respect your decision and your petition and all that paper that you got in front of you, but to me, it doesn't mean anything.
Miss Johnson and Miss Davis attend court to determine if Mr. Johnson is their biological father. At their mother's funeral, a different man claimed to be their father. Mr. Johnson ruthlessly admits to having paternity doubts, but wishes to clarify 25 years of questions. Another man outside the courtroom also suspects Mr. Johnson could be his father.
Ms. Johnson and Mrs. Davis, you are here in court today to finally find out if the defendant is your biological father. You both claim at your mother's funeral, a different man approached you and announced he instead is your father.
Mr. Johnson was asked if he had knowledge of their mother being unfaithful, or if someone else could be the father of Miss Johnson and Miss Davis. Mr. Johnson confirmed he had suspicions as she told him directly about her unhappiness and her connections with other men while he was working.
Did you ever hear anything about their mother cheating, that someone else could be the father?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you hear specifically?
Actually, she actually told me.
She did?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did she say?
You know, she would tell me, you know, I'm unhappy. You're not spending the time with me. She would go off and be with these, you know, these other guys.
Mr. Johnson affirmed that he raised Miss Johnson and Miss Davis on his own. Even though he had doubts about being their biological father, he stepped up to the responsibility. He mentioned that their mother had told them another man was their father, but he was there when they were born and during the 9 months of pregnancy.
Mr. Johnson, you raised these children on your own.
Yes, Your Honor.
But in this courtroom, you've been honest and said you had doubt.
Yes, Your Honor.
And yet you raised these girls as your own,
Yes, Your Honor.
accepted this responsibility.
Yes, Your Honor. The mother, you know, even though the mother told him that the other man was her father.
Mr. Johnson revealed that he offered money to the girls' mother in hopes of encouraging a mother-daughter connection between them. He stressed the importance of his daughters understanding the dynamics of their family, noting his son had witnessed it firsthand.
You're saying when you had the girls, you wanted the girls to see her
Yes, Your Honor.
and spend time with her so they could have a mother-daughter
Yes, Your Honor.
connection.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so you would have to say to her, I'll give you money
Yes, Your Honor.
if you spend time with them.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh.
The individual is discussing his sisters and the doubts surrounding their paternity. He notes that he can see his father in his middle sister, Miss Johnson, but not as much in Miss Davis. He becomes emotional while speaking, and Judge Lake comforts him, indicating the sensitivity of the topic. Did the DNA result make him feel any better?
Mr. Johnson, Sr., you are her father. Mr. Johnson, Sr., you are her father.
Miss Robinson's life was shaken hard when she discovered that another man, Mr. Thompson, claimed her paternity. Confused with his situation, she came to court with the man whom she believed was her father. And now she badly needed answers today.
Mr. Thompson, you've dragged the defendant, Mr. Fresneda, to court to prove that you, not he, fathered Miss Jasmine Robinson. You've never met Ms. Robinson, but say today you'll prove she's yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Fresneda, you were married to Ms. Robinson's mother.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Thompson quickly stated that when Mr. Fresneda was away, her mother was sleeping with him, and they quit their thing when Sonia got pregnant. But his family members insisted that he resembled Miss Robinson. Upon this, the judge asked Miss Robinson about her upbringing.
He never treated me no different, so I would never suspect it.
Now, he says he heard things from your family members. You've never heard those murmurings, whispers through the grapevine?
Nobody never told me anything. They just left me in the dark. Nobody said nothing to me about it.
I have to say that learning about your paternity doubt at 29 years old is not a good thing. And taking this much time, the plaintiff shared that after her mother's death, it was her choice that Mr. Fresneda would raise her daughter. Then, Miss Robinson shared how she discovered her potential father.
He had messaged me on Facebook, the first message, and was like, hey, tell your mom that I said hi. But I just brushed it off. I'm like, my mom has her own Facebook page. It's just somebody that she knows. So I just left it alone. I didn't say anything about it. And then 5 years later, in 2015, he had reached out to me again.
For sure, she would have never taken it seriously, and it could have been a pathetic joke. But this wasn't a joke, as Miss Robinson shared it with her aunt, and to her shock, she was informed of the same story. And further, she even asked her dad about it.
I had told him, I said, Dad, there's this guy named Thompson that had reached out to me on Facebook and saying that he's my dad. And my dad was like, what's his name again? And then I said Thompson. And then he had said kind of the same story that my Aunt Felicia told me. He said that years ago, he had came around saying that he was my dad, but my mom was saying no.
It seemed now Mr. Thompson's claim had some potential. But even if he believed he was the real father, he would see the mother-daughter in the town they lived in, but never tried for a DNA test. Now, it was time to know Mr. Fresneda's point of view in this story.
I asked her mother, like he says, on more than one occasion, and she always said to me that Jasmine was my firstborn, and that was good enough for me, Your Honor. We went on and had 4 more children after that, and they all belong to me. Point I'm trying to make in here, Your Honor, that I wish that he would have addressed me before he sent her.
So, both the men knew about each other. That's interesting. But even if they knew that something was wrong behind the curtains, it should have been addressed timely. And that's exactly what Miss Robinson argued about it, because she was hurt by this situation.
And I feel betrayed. Like, nobody told me nothing. And my family members that did know about it never stepped up about it, even after my mom passed away. I feel like, would I have to be on my deathbed to find out, like, if he's not my dad? That's not fair to me.
I have compassion for you because I've lost my mother as well, and I know what it feels like to be a young woman in the world without your mother.
Ugh, I feel her pain. Her whole life has become a lie now, and it wasn't easy for her to accept it. As much as it was hard for her to understand, the judge brought in her aunt to testify, and she agreed to Mr. Thompson's claim very quickly.
If we brought it to her attention, she always said that Ladner was not Jasmine's father.
So why were you bringing it to her attention?
Because as Jasmine was growing up, as the aunt, started seeing a little difference in the children.
You did?
I did.
Now, all the arrows were pointing in Mr. Thompson's direction. Then, the plaintiff asserted that it was important for him that all of his kids and grandchildren should have a bond with one another, and shared that his kids were friends with Miss Robinson, to which she agreed.
I know them from being around them, and one of the sisters, I worked with her. We worked together.
And so you were working with this young woman without knowing that she potentially could be your sister?
Yes.
I can contest that we're all confused, and that's why we're here today, to find out the truth.
To me, she's my child, and she's always gonna be my child.
Now, with all the testimonies, we pretty much knew where this would go. But still, the real father's name was sealed in that envelope. And to get this truth out, finally, the judge was ready to read the results.
Mr. Thompson, you are her father.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Don't worry. That's my heart. That's my number one. I understand and I respect your decision and your petition and all that paper that you got in front of you, but to me, it doesn't mean nothing.
Second timers were in the court. Miss Wilson claimed her ex-husband was busy playing house with a new girlfriend while he denied their firstborn. However, Mr. Wilson and the girlfriend denied this obviously, but also used color adjectives for the plaintiff.
Mrs. Wilson, you are back in my courtroom. Your soon-to-be ex-husband is now denying your firstborn daughter, Peyton, and you and your children in order to play house with his new little girlfriend and baby.
Yes, Your Honor.
Baby was clearly furious with the defendant, and she made the defendant know how she felt too. Apparently, she'd been raising all the 3 kids alone by herself, and that was not right. Not at all.
Mr. Wilson, you don't believe you're Peyton's biological father.
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
and I have
whenever
reasons,
he does see them, though, I have to provide everything. I have to call him to beg him to see them, which I shouldn't have to do.
She's
That's
never
not
called
my
to
job.
beg him to see anybody. Never once.
The defendant claimed that baby mama's ex had fathered Peyton, and he was pretty confident about this. According to him, Miss Wilson had not been too committed to their relationship, and he had instances to back up his claim as well.
She cheated on me with this guy multiple times. Multiple times. And
that's a lie, Your Honor. I cheated one time, and it really wasn't even cheating because we were not together. And I did get a hickey, and I'm gonna admit it, and I did lie about it.
no, your excuse was the dog jumped off the bed and hit your neck. How does that happen? You know what I'm saying?
Trust was completely lost between these guys. Yep, the baby mama just couldn't understand why this guy was doing this. His doubts appeared meaningless to her, but doubts are doubts. Moreover, the start to their relationship wasn't too great either.
I left my ex to be with him. So, I mean, it was 2 weeks
She
before
just admitted that
me
she
and
left
him
this
got
guy
together.
for me.
Well, what it's saying to me is she slept with 2 guys in the window of conception.
No, we got together in November. You tell me how the heck I can be pregnant for a year, and that's what he's trying to say.
Time for the exhibit presented by Mr. Wilson. It was a text exchange between baby mama and the other potential baby daddy, as claimed by Mr. Wilson. Miss Haley denied it outright, stating it wasn't her who texted this. interesting response.
She states that he looks just like you. Look at her feet, her eyes, her ears. She's sent pictures of Peyton to this man, and right away, right off the rip, he said, she's not mine. He denied her from the beginning. She said, do you want to get a DNA test? He said no. If she was 100% sure that I was the father, why would she be texting another man talking about my alleged daughter looks like him?
DNA or no DNA, baby daddy did feel about little Peyton. There was a bond between them, but even that didn't propel him to actively participate in her life. The girlfriend was too eager to justify that, but that wasn't enough, and Judge Lake blew up at these guys.
And this is very real because at the end of the day, you're learning the lessons that those of us who have children, and we know this each and every day, these children gotta eat. They need clothing, they need shelter, they need care, they need an education. I don't know if Peyton's your biological child or not. We're gonna find that out today, but what we do already know is y'all need to stop making babies.
Oh, these people definitely needed to grow up themselves before taking responsibilities for growing babies of their own. The fate of little Peyton was at stake, and like every other child, she deserved to have a father in her life. Let's see if she gets to have one today.
Mr. Wilson, you are the father.
Thank you.
You are her father.
Now step up, please.
You got to grow up before you can step up.
The plaintiff brought the baby mama to court after she ended up tilting his world right off its axis. In the electrifying world of paternity disputes, we have Mr. Lloyd and Miss Rayleigh, all ready to fight out this paternity battle.
Mr. Lloyd, you are in court today to prove that you are the biological father of the defendant's 1.5-year-old daughter, Courtney Marie Grimes. You claim the defendant led you to believe that you were the father only to have a bomb dropped on you that another man was her dad. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
A love triangle that would even make our dear Shakespeare blush. Baby mommy, the mastermind it seemed, was phenomenal at juggling. Her objects of choice, though, were rather peculiar. And so, the drama begins.
I had just recently got out of a relationship when I had met Mr. Lloyd. Of course, I was ending my last relationship with the other party.
All right, so then you had finished the other relationship, or you were still kind of seeing this other guy?
We had just ended. It wasn't even a month apart or a week apart that me and him had ended.
Ah, the doubts and reservations. The beautiful aspect of every relationship. Dear God. So the defendant dropped the bomb on the baby daddy, claiming he might not be the dad. Ouch, that sure must have hurt. Her alibi, though? The Super Bowl. And so, the guessing game began.
I was ending my last relationship with the other party.
All right, so then you had finished the other relationship, or you were still kind of seeing this other guy?
We had just ended. It wasn't even a month apart or a week apart that me and him had ended. And we had started getting intimate right there.
So how did the baby mama end up pregnant? It's like a reality TV plotline. Baby daddy's excitement, though, soon turned to confusion with a capital C. After the big revelation, he left, but still, the defendant had someone at the hospital with her. And don't forget the baby named Crisis as well. That was interesting, and one for the ages.
When you told him he was the father, he accepted he was the father, but you say that this window between Mr. Grimes and Mr. Lloyd is only a span of 2 to 3 weeks anyway, right?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Or 4. Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks.
I didn't even know the baby got born. I had to find out on Facebook.
The window of conception becomes a blurry mess. No surprise there. Was it Mr. Lloyd or Mr. Grimes? Nobody knew for sure. And so the baby daddies took the matter into their own hands. And like a suspenseful movie full of twists, they did a sting operation.
Was trying to find out because she was still playing that it was my baby, still playing his baby. So we met up.
Actually,
we drove
they
up
pulled up on me. I said, okay, so both of them asked me in the car together. They in the car together. I'm with another friend who's the daddy, Chantel. So I said, okay, Curtis, you're the sperm donor, and Mr. Lloyd is the one who'll be there for her.
The drama escalated as the other baby daddy, Mr. Grimes, shared his version of the events. Desperation was the name of the game here, people. And the tension? So thick. Now the second baby daddy had doubts as well. Apparently, the baby looked like the both of them. Oh yeah.
Since Shantia been pregnant, she been playing both sides. One minute Corey the daddy, next minute I'm the daddy. Corey about to spend some money on the baby, he the daddy. Like, we both still seeing her to this day, you know? So
You both still seeing her?
we both still seeing Courtney. He been to Memphis more than me. I've been to Memphis one time, he been down there 3-4 times.
So neither of the baby daddies was supporting baby Courtney. Did you find that surprising? Because I sure didn't. However, the plaintiff was ready to support the baby. On the other hand, you would be surely surprised to know how many kids Mr. Grimes was supporting at the mere age of 23. Dear God! In the heat of the moment, baby mama ended up saying something ignorant. Yikes!
She has your last name. Have you been helping to support Courtney since she's been born?
I'm gonna tell you like I told Shantia when Corey, Mr. Lloyd got out of her life, I told her give me blood, I give her baby love basically. I'm tired of her playing both sides. I got 6 other kids that I gotta worry about. She's not finna keep playing with this kid. If Courtney minds, Courtney makes 7.
These guys were just playing the age-old blame game. Miss Riley broke down and poured her heart out. Yes, girl, let it all out in the court. And while she did that, Mr. Grimes had the nerve to interject. Come on, man.
I never told him that he wasn't the father. To hear him say this in court today, he would never, ever speak to me again unless it's about our children. And that's it. It's no more going back and forth, because I have been going back and forth with these two for too long, and it's time for it to end. Either I'm gonna be one of them or neither one of them.
The moment we've all been waiting for. These guys were on the edge of their seats. All eyes were on the envelope. Is it Mr. Lloyd or Mr. Grimes? We're about to find out. Let's take a look at what Destiny planned for the baby.
The biological father is Mr. Lloyd.
I knew it from the start, you done, bro.
Calm down, because the truth is, it's not done. Because you might have another baby, you potentially impregnated the same girl again. Her mother says what to you?
She said, that is your daughter that followed me in, and I don't want you telling her anything until I pass away.
You called both of them dad?
I did, yes, Your Honor. I didn't know just how to take this. I just felt like this should have been done, you know, by the adults in my life.
Mrs. Garcia and Mr. Johnson were lifelong friends for over 2 decades. But guess what? The man had been keeping a secret from her for all these years. A secret that could rock their friendship to its core. And it did, as he claimed he was her real father. A roller coaster of emotions coming right up, people.
I've always wanted to have a father. My father was very abusive, and I watched my mother go through a second marriage with the same type of abuse. So I've always felt close to Rusty, and I never knew why. I never could understand this feeling, you know, that was always there with him. So today, if it's true, I want to know it.
Who knew a night visit in Lake Isabel would turn out to be a night to remember? That is exactly what happened between the baby mama and the alleged baby daddy. The defendant took care of a stranger he found in a vulnerable situation, but he ended up taking care of her a lot more. Oh yeah!
I picked her up and put her in the truck and cleaned her up, and she said, I can't go home until I know that he's in bed passed out.
And what happens?
Well, got to talking, one thing led to another, and sex was involved.
And that was the last time you heard from her for 28 years?
Right.
Well, after that one night, it was a total no-show for 28 years. Yeah, you heard that right. But fear not, mates, as fate was once again on their side. And these people ended up meeting again. Though Miss Garcia instantly felt a connection to him, which only now made sense to her. But by then, vows were already made to keep secrets hidden.
Her mother says what to you?
She said, that is your daughter that followed me in, and I don't want you telling her anything until I pass away.
How do you get to the point where you decide, I'm no longer going to keep this secret?
I asked her to sit down and I want to talk to her, and I explained everything.
Now, they kept the secret for all these years, but then the baby mama passed away. So the baby daddy wasn't bound by that vow anymore. And guess what he did? Yep, he dropped a bombshell. Moreover, he even included the supposed daughter in his will. I mean, what? And that was precisely the reaction of his family as well.
Your family is not completely pleased that you've included Ms. Garcia in your will. Is that correct?
Right.
And Ms. Garcia, your sister, doubts that Mr. Johnston is in fact your father.
Yes, she does. I was under the assumption that my mother told him right before she died, which was in 2009. I just found out today.
With bated breath, the moment of truth was upon them. The years of secrecy were finally over, and real answers were about to be delivered. Was keeping that secret worth it or not? We are about to find out.
When it comes to Cindy Lee Garcia, Mr. Johnston, you are not her father.
This young lady is very important to me. I love her. She is my child. And as far as anything goes on my part, if she needs me, I'm there.
While Miss Sheets had spent her whole life believing two possible men had the potential of being her father, the defendant, on the other hand, just got wind of this news pretty recently. Talk about the shock of a lifetime, right? And now these guys were here to get to the bottom of this paternity mess.
I've been with her since she was born, 35 years, and embedded in my heart.
So it is up to the court whether or not there is sufficient evidence to order a paternity test. Why do you need the court to grant this test?
I know Mr. Rhodes as my father initially, but after the breakup of my parents, she introduced me to Mr. Smith.
Now, the plaintiff spent her whole life playing the who is my daddy game between these two guys. It's like a sitcom where everyone's the dad. And no one's the dad, but all was happening in the same episode. And even having the two possibilities, the birth certificate still had no father listed. Nada!
Now, you submitted to the court a copy of your birth certificate, your name listed under the child's name, and under father's name, there's no one listed.
Right, I never was giving just a clear definition of, hey, this is your father, this is not. I was told both were at one time, and I was told, at one time or another, one wasn't and one was.
Cue the emotions, people, because we were moving on to the devastation of the father. For 30 plus years, this man believed she was his daughter. And then, bam! The said daughter demanded a paternity test. Well, his world got truly rocked, and why wouldn't it, since all that popping in and out of the life of baby mama caught up to him now?
Someone wanted a paternity test because they thought you weren't their biological father, and that person was the young woman you believed to be your daughter.
Yes, Shauna, I did.
What did you feel like when you got that call?
I'm confident, and I noticed my daughter. It's very confusing, but the natural feeling that I have is this my daughter, and can't nobody tell me nothing else.
Well, since the baby daddy never questioned paternity till now, he stood up to his fatherly duties, all thanks to Grandma. But you wouldn't believe it when I said that the other potential baby daddy stepped up too. Yeah, no kidding. Talk about the confusion of a lifetime, right?
I remember her looking at me like, who are you? And I didn't really pay no attention, but I felt it, that she was confused. But I said, no, from my grandmother telling me this is my child, I've been embedded in me. I'm gonna love this child and take care of the best I can, regardless of what's going on. Because one day when she's grown, I'll be able to tell the story and let her know that I loved her since birth.
If you thought that was the end of the confusing mess, you are so mistaken, my friends, because Miss Sheets just delivered more. It seemed both guys visited her on and off, and she referred to both of them as Dad. Seriously, woman? Now, add a dash of teenage confusion and ding ding ding, you've got a recipe for a tangled web of paternity uncertainty.
You called both of them Dad?
I did, yes, Your Honor. I didn't know, hey, about DNA tests. I didn't know, I just felt like this should have been done, by the adults in my life. I just can't let this go on any longer. I have to know.
4 years old, you don't know anything. But when you get 13 or you get in school and everybody's got one dad.
Yes.
By the looks of it, the baby daddy did know that other players were in the game as well, but his focus was still on the baby mommy. So much so he came back from serving and had plans to marry the woman. But in a twist of fate, mommy had made other plans by then. Furthermore, when the daughter demanded some answers from the mother, there was none. And the conception window didn't help either.
Did you ever ask your mom?
She just kind of didn't give me a straight answer. I never got a straight answer. I tried to get one. All three of us sat down together.
Really?
Yes, and they tried to calculate conception, and they just couldn't quite get it together. But my question was, why did he pay child support my entire life until I was 18?
Let's stir up the confusion, Gravy, even more, shall we? Because we were on this train and we have to see it through. Unfortunately, the other baby daddy had also passed away. His son was there to shed some light on this mess. Well, he knew the plaintiff for a decade, and his father told him the truth at one point as well. Wow!
I actually went to her house a couple of times and we talked, and through life we lost contact. And after that, I sat down with my dad and I asked him seriously, is this my sister? And he was the kind of guy who, he joked around, he was very animated, but he very firmly and strongly looked me in the eyes and said, yeah, I believe that this is your sister, my daughter.
Moving on, we got to see poor Mr. Garcia trying desperately to make sense of this chaotic paternity mess. It was clear he wanted to be a father to the plaintiff, but the presence of the other guy made it difficult as heck. So much so, he could have faced jail time. Ouch!
And I always knew a black cloud was over my head with her because I said, this is my daughter. Why can't I go get her and take her to Chicago and raise her? I would come to town to see her, everybody looking at me strange. They would never let me take her to go to the store to get her school clothes. They told me, no, go get them and bring them back. I was never able to spend time with her because I'm nothing. He had his name on her.
Judge Lake ended up granted the paternity test. Well, frankly, the whole confusion was screaming for it. It was finally time to wrap up this 3-decade mystery and sort out the paternity mess for once and all. Here we go!
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Rhodes.
Really? Oh my!
I hear you saying, Miss Sheets, you so happy. It's good to see you smile. I don't think I saw you smile last time we saw you.
A long-lost father was finally ready to step up to the role of fatherhood. However, it was too late now, according to Miss Washington. Mr. Alexander decided to reconnect after 29 long years. But the daughter wasn't having it. The baby daddy took his sweet time taking this decision.
So how did it feel when you finally heard this young woman's voice?
I felt real good, because I had my daughter search for it and went on Facebook to find it, and I was so happy that I finally got in touch with my daughter.
So, Miss Washington, I see the tears in your eyes, honey.
He contacted me at 29. Like, you missed out. If I was, you would have been there, not at 29.
Miss Washington recounted the day she first heard of Mr. Alexander in ever, and it wasn't the Hallmark reunion the guy was hoping for. Oh no, it was a 29-year late phone call. But what was even more frustrating was that the guy just popped in, dropped this bomb, and then went MIA again. Yeah, the nerve of this man.
One night my phone rang. He's like, I'm looking for Tish, and I'm like, who is this? And he's like, I'm your dad. I told him I never heard of him before. He mentioned my granddaddy and my grandma, but I'm 29. Where have you been? My mom passed, he wasn't there. My granddaddy, my grandma passed, he wasn't there. And then he got to talking to me, and I'm like, but where have you been? I'm 29.
Now, the defendant had no clue about this baby daddy. But wait, she had known another was a possible candidate when she was 18. And she took it upon herself to get to the bottom of this paternity issue then, and went to meet the said guy, but only to receive disappointment and hurt in the end.
She was telling me the whole time that that was my father, and he wanted to meet up. I had to catch the city bus to go meet him. We sat down, and he was like, he didn't know, but he had a wife and kids already, and he didn't want to mess that up. So I was like, I'm ready to go, and I never saw him or talked to him again.
Shedding some light on how these guys met initially, Mr. Alexander brought along a witness. And the said witness played matchmaker way back in 1976. And James, aka Mr. Alexander, ended up in the same social brew with Miss Gladys. However, the baby mama soon pulled a no-show afterwards, and so the mess began.
James had left me and went somewhere else. He didn't work at my new location, okay? So the next time I hear James, he's all proud. He said, man, have you seen Gladys? I said, no, I haven't. He said, I got a baby by her. So he was excited and happy, but hurt that he couldn't find her.
But it is your testimony that he was looking for his little girl.
He was.
Oh, ma'am.
He talked about her.
Oh, ma'am.
He talked about this young lady here.
Dear Lord, the woman couldn't catch a break. Miss Washington had no father growing up. Then she lost her mother. If that wasn't enough, she got terminally ill. And at this point, she was in desperate need of a family. But the said baby daddy was heck of a lot difficult to get a hold of.
When I was going through cancer, I didn't have nobody. My mom not here. But then I was trying to get in contact with him because I needed a donor for my transplant. And he wasn't nowhere to be found because we was like on and off with, contacting each other.
Okay.
And so for me to contact him, I have to go through his one daughter in Alabama. She used to call me asking me if I know where he was. So I'm like, no.
Moving on, the defendant gets in contact with Mr. Alexander, and they get a DNA test done on their own. But the laboratory ended up mixing it up and made them wait 3 weeks instead of 3 days. Wow, the lady luck was surely not in their favor.
In 2 to 3 days, they'll let us know. 3 weeks went by.
You had to call her back?
Yes.
And then she says, I'm sorry, he's not your father.
Yes.
Do you remember her telling you that they called back and the lab said that you were not her biological father?
Yes, Your Honor, I remember that. And we both felt that it was an undecided decision that they made on their behalf because it just didn't seem right.
As the courtroom drama unfolds further, we get to know that the defendant's transplant might hinder the DNA results being conclusive. But leave it to the judge to get a professional opinion about it. And so, Dr. Michael Bard, the DNA expert, took the stand and dropped a bombshell about the bone marrow transplant. And that led to the defendant being way too honest.
What are you hoping for, Mr. Alexander? And are you hoping that Miss Washington is your biological daughter? Are some of the tears because you feel guilty for all the years that you missed out on?
Yes, to a certain extent it is that, Your Honor. I'm feeling
Do you
guilty.
feel like you let her down?
Yes, I do, Your Honor, to a certain extent.
I don't want him to be now.
It was time to untangle this decades-old paternity saga and reach the final chapter of it. That being the DNA results. The potential daddy-daughter duo were certainly hoping for different outcomes. Let's see which way the dice rolls.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Alexander, you are not the father. Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.